Yo, yo, yo. I'm Alex, and this is my Cabba Universe 6 deck, Dragonball Super. So this deck is a very aggressive, swift-hitting deck. Tries to go straight for the opponent's life total and tap them out. This is the Cabba deck. I've done pretty well with this. I've actually won a couple first places with this. Today at our locals, I went against a couple different decks. I went against a hit deck. It's very similar to this. It's a little less aggressive in the early game, but has a different finisher, which is the hit SBR, or SR. And it flips your leader from its awakened state back to its front, and it turns it back into a 10k, and then they just assault you with attack after attack. I managed to beat that one by using the Kevlar that's free, the 19k dual attack. It ended up being a 3400 though, thanks to my leader. I just kept attacking and attacking, and I managed to out-aggro him. Then the next game, I actually went up against, I guess, a more interesting deck. It was a Broly deck, and it's like OG Broly, set 1. But it was kind of cute, but this deck is just too fast for that. Just absolutely just spits them out. And one of the other matchups I faced was against there's a maiden deck with a yellow Broly. And that deck's interesting. It tries to use the yellow Broly to do a lot of untapped trickery. And you try to play the giant maiden that it's a 30k double strike that when it swings it has an auto that makes you discard 2 cards from your hand. And he attempts to swing twice with it, so he ends up ripping your hand apart 4 cards and also attacking you twice with a huge double striker. And it draws a ton of cards. But I managed to get around that with the Kale, which negates all the card skills and then bounces it back to the hand. And I basically just out-aggroed him. I just threw everything I could at him before he could even do the giant maiden part. So this deck's just really solid. I would recommend taking it to your locals. It's a good time. It's a fun deck. You swarm the board. You're not stop swinging. You only even play 2 negates. It's a good time. So leader Cabba on the unawakened side, every time a U6 card is put into play, you can take up to 1 life. You don't have to. You can choose up to 1 life, add it to your hand, and that card gets plus 5,000 power. It's always going to get the 5,000 power even if you don't choose a life to add to your hand. So it gives a little bit of pump, helps with the aggression, also helps you awaken early. Then it's awaken as you get to untap 2 energy. Those energy are very important to keep up that aggression and to keep attacking the opponent. So the awaken side, it's Vegeta and Cabba. It has a permanent that as long as your opponent is tapped down on energy, it gets plus 5,000 power. That's basically a free Sensu Bean on their turn if they tap out to aggro you back. Or there's a lot of cards in this deck that are going to rest mode your opponent's energy, and if you manage to tap them all out, your league gets an extra 5k. It, on attack, has an auto, lets you draw a card. Classic, normal for a lead. Its other ability is that also once per turn, on either player's turn, it's an auto that if you switch one of their battle cards or their energy to rest mode, you get to draw another card. So just lots of draw power on this one. And then it has a third auto, a lot of text on this card, that if your opponent attacks with their leader while all of their energy is in rest mode, you get to pick 2 of their energy, switch them to rest mode, and then they can't switch back to active. So you get to frost 2 of their energy. It's a very powerful ability, and you can kind of debate your opponent to a lot of plays that we'll get into later. Alright, so I only run one of these. This is Kale, Timid Sister. She's a 1-drop blue, can't be KO'd by her opponent's skills, which is useful because this deck has a lot of ways to evolve these veggies into bigger veggies. When you play her, she has an auto that can bring back a card that costs 3 or more from your drop back to your hand. It's not the best one to actually evolve, so I run it as a 1-of as a backup in the late game. I run 4 of, however, Caulifla the Bold Sister. This card's crazy. It's the 1-drop yellow for Universe 6. It also has that permanent, can't be KO'd by your opponent's skills. It's really useful to be able to actually evolve onto it with the other Caulifla. It's got an auto that when you play it, you get to look at the top 5, grab a U6, and put it in your hand. Now, this is crazy because there's no energy requirements on that or anything. You can grab any card. You can grab your super combos. You can grab the secret rare, your 4 drops, your 7 drops. It doesn't matter. She can grab whatever you need. So this card rarely ever misses, and it's just like a 1-drop that replaces itself that evolves in the late game. Very good card for this deck. Whole play set of Sensu Beans here. If you're playing a best of 3 match, these might come out because there's a lot of cards now that if you untap your energy during your own turn, your opponent gets to ditch one of your energy. But this is an aggro deck in game 1, and these really help you power through. It gives your guys power, and also it helps you give more energy to make even more plays. I play 2 of these negates, Time Magic. They're very useful. They stop dual attackers. They're also a free negate as long as you have at least 5 cards in your drop for sparking 5. It's just a good way to kind of keep your opponent off edge while you're just pressuring them nonstop if they make the mistake of attacking your lead. I'll play 2 of this, Planet Vegeta. So the one part of this is that it untaps Great Apes. This deck doesn't run Great Apes, so that's not the purpose of it. But the second part is that when you play this field, you get to search your whole deck and grab any Saiyan with an energy cost of 4 or less. So you can grab any of the Kales, Cauliflas, or Cabbas that are in this deck that are in Universe 6. So pretty much the only thing you can't grab in here are the large Keflas, the 7 drops, or the 8 drop, the secret rare. But other than that, you can get Kale, Caulifla, and Cabbas. And this card's also a great combo with the other field card that came out in the Expert deck. It's called Planet Sadala. So this is a 2 cost, it's a dual color card. It is a field. When you play this field, you get to play another one of your Universe 6 cards that are energy cost 2 or less. And if you do, you also get to draw a card. So this field comes out, you play a guy, you also draw a card. A lot of the Universe 6 people that you play with this card, when they come into play, they also grab you another card, like that Khalifa we had referenced earlier, this one. But the main one you're going to want to play off this is this Kale. So she's a 2-drop. When she comes down, you get a look at the top 10 of cards of your deck. You can pick up to 1 Caulifla or 1 Cabba with the cost of 2 or less and cheat it out as well. You get to play it for free. So you play Sadala, you play her, you draw a card, and then she looks at the top 10, you get to play yet another Universe 6 card. And then with the leader ability, like I mentioned earlier, every time you play one of these cards, you can take one of your life and add it to your hand, which draws you even more cards, gets you closer to Awakening, making your leader go from a 10k to a 15k. Way stronger. Now the play is you want to do this on turn 2, now on turn 3 or 4 you can play these Planet Vegetas, because when you do, you can only have 1 field out at a time. This field will replace the Planet Sadala, so the Planet Sadala goes to your drop area, and when it does, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck and grab a Universe 6 with a cost of 5 or less among them and add it to your hand. So you get to search your whole deck for a card that's 4 or less, any Saiyan, and then you also get to look at the top 5 and grab another card. So you're just drawing cards and drawing cards and drawing cards while also playing battle cards. So you're just non-stop pressuring your opponent with all these cards. So I run 4 of that Kale that I was talking about. This is probably your number 1 turn 2 play. It's very powerful. It's the way you set up most of the ways you're actually going to end up killing your opponent. So she can play that Khalifa that we saw earlier, this little 1-drop. She can also play these Cabbas. These are 2-drop guys. He's got 2 separate autos. His first one is when he comes into play, whether you actually play him for his cost or with Planet Sadala or this Kale. Look at the top 7 of your deck. You get to choose up to 2 Universe 6 cards from the top, add them to your hand. If you picked at least 1 card, though, you got to send one from your hand to your drop. That's not bad. It's still a card that's replacing itself, and often you're playing it for free off of either this Kale or a Planet Sadala. So this also doesn't have, like the 1-drop Khalifa, any restrictions on the Universe 6 card you're grabbing. So you can grab super combos, your secret rare, anything your hand is missing, you can grab off this guy, off the top 7. You can grab up to 2 of them. It's very strong at getting you what you need. I play 1 of this Caulifla. I'm probably going to bump it up to 2. When you play her, she has an auto that you can take 1 card from your life, and then you get to switch one of your opponent's energy to rest mode. This combos well with your leader. If it's on its awakened side, you get to draw an extra card. Or sometimes you just want to do this to tap your opponent out. Maybe they have to up 1 energy just to keep up a negate. If they don't have that energy anymore, you can start swinging heavy. Like most decks, this deck is playing 4 super combos. The super combo of Universe 6 is a little bit special. So you can actually use this super combo when you're at 5 or less life. You don't have to wait all the way till you're at 4 or you're awakened. So it's a very good super combo. I play 2 of the starter exclusive, Vegeta and Cabba, Master Pupil Bond. So this card's alright. I often actually charge this card on turn 1 if I have it in my hand. But once in a while, if my opponent's kind of messed with my aggressive plan early, this is a great card. It comes down for 3 energy, is a 19k barrier. And then it has Aegis, which is one of the new mechanics, which is you can discard a card that's yellow and blue, or you can discard one yellow and blue card, and then you get to untap 2 of your energy. That's pretty sweet. So this guy's got barriers, so he's hard to kill. So you get to play him, and then you can pass to your opponent. If they attack you with something, during the defense step, you can pitch a card, any of your dual-colored cards, untaps your energy. On top of that, when he uses that Aegis, he has an auto that you get to bring back 1 2-drop Universe 6 or less with no keywords, so can't double strike or any of that, and put it back into play. So that's pretty cool. So you get to play defensive, untap your energy to combo or play for the negates, but you also get a guy back for free. So that means you can get back this Kale, which then this Kale will proc her auto. You look at the top 10 again, get yet another Cabba or Caulifla. You can just straight up get the Caulifla or just straight up get the Cabba during your opponent's turn. So you get to play defensive and set up cards for your next turn. So this card's pretty alright. I don't play it as often as the rest of the deck, but it's a good situational card. This card is very powerful. I only play 2 of it though, because it's kind of one of your potential finishers. You can find this off any of those cards I mentioned earlier, like the Planet Sadala, or you can find this off Planet Vegeta, or you can find this off your Cauliflas. So this is a Kevlar for 4. You can hardcast it for that if you want. But also it has Union Potara on a blue Kale and a yellow Caulifla. And that's free. So you can play this card for free as long as you Union Potara it on top of a Kale and Caulifla. And it doesn't matter which Kale and Caulifla. There's no requirements. So it can be on the 1-drops, it can be on the 2-drops, or a mix thereof, or the 4-drops that I'm going to show later. And you can set up very powerful combo turns with the leader, where you can have these 2 out and play at the same time. And then if your leader was unawakened, they both got plus 5,000 power from your leader's ability. And then you could attack with both if you want. Try and get in some aggro. She's a little bit less okay to attack with because she's usually 9k, but she'll be 14k, so you can attack your opponent while they're unawakened. Since you're taking life with your leader, then you can awaken, untap to your energy, and then you can, or before that even, you can just Union Potara both of these and play this, and this keeps those 5k pumps. So this will have either 10k or it'll have 15k extra. And then it's a 19k dual attack. So then usually it's going to be about a 34,000 dual attack card on turn 2 or turn 3. So you get 2 swings in with a 34,000. Super buff, super strong, and it's a card that you can play for free. I play a playset of this sweet SR. So this is one of the engines of the deck. It's Champo and Vados, Gracious Aid. So this has one of the newer mechanics as well, Arrival, blue-yellow. So as long as you have both blue and yellow cards in your combo area, you can play this card from your hand by paying 1 yellow. So even though it's a 4 cost, you get to play it for only 1 energy. I've never actually played this card for 4. I've never needed to. And then it's got 2 permanents. The first one is insanely good for this deck. So it's reduce the combo cost of all blue and yellow Universe 6 cards in your hand by 1. And we'll get into why this is insane later. But just even that prospect on its own, all of your 10k combos, you don't have to pay energy for them. You can just roll them out. There's no consequence to that. This card's second permanent is, if this card would be removed from a battle area, you basically just can take any card by your opponent's skill, by the way. You can still die in battle, but if your opponent tries to kill this card with a skill and it tries to remove it from the battle area in any form, KO, bounce it back to your hand, take control of it. Instead, you can take a card from your hand and place it in your drop area, and then you have to switch this card to rest mode, which then gives your opponent the ability to attack it. But it's not KO'd instead, it remains in the battle area in rest mode, and then you get to choose up to one of your opponent's energy and switch it to rest mode. So you can foil your opponent's ability to try and kill this card, as well as you get to frost down one of their energies. Now if your leader's awakened when they try to do this, you have your auto proc, because you switch your opponent's energy to rest mode, even though it's their turn, you still get to draw a card. So this card doesn't die, you discard a card, but then you get to draw a card right back, and you get to switch one of your opponent's energy to rest mode to disrupt their plays. So there's the next part of this deck, which is the part that is very explosive. So I play 4 of both of these cards. There's Caulifla, the Awakened Sister, and there's Kale, the Awakened Sister. So they share some things in common. The Caulifla and the Kale both have this ability that during your turn, you can't do it on your opponent's turn, but during your turn, after you've done battle and you've comboed with these, you get to evolve it on one of your yellow Cauliflas or one of your blue Kales, respectively. So with Champa and Vados, these are one cost 10k combos, but if you have her out, these are free. So if you have any of the lower cost Cauliflas or Kales, out in play that you got to cheat out early and you got multiples of them, if you arrive this out, this only costs you 1 energy. These are all free. So you get to attack with your lead or whatever combo, you get to add 20k power onto that attack. And on top of that, after the battle, these are both going to evolve on top of your Cauliflas and Kales. So if you have little 1-drops that you played turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, if you cause this to arrival for 1 energy, these now go from being 4Ks to being 20Ks, which is, well, insane. You just played 2 free 20Ks. Not only that, when they come into play, they each have an ability. So the Caulifla has an auto that when you play her, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards or their energy and switch it to rest mode. So this once again synergizes with the leader. If your leader's awakened and you do that switch, you get to draw an extra card. And then if not, it's just maybe you tap an annoying blocker out the way, maybe you tap an energy that they would be able to use to combo or play a negate. And then it's a 20k double strike. So that's going to get in on your opponent's leader and do some damage. This Kale synergizes with this Caulifla. When you play her, you get to pick one of your opponent's cards in rest mode. You negate all of its skills. So if it's indestructible, passive effect like this, that can't be KO'd, doesn't matter. You negate all those skills first, then you return it to your opponent's hand. So it won't work on barrier because you do have to choose, but you can get rid of even indestructible things like Zamasu. You can get rid of, like say they played a 4-cost card last turn, and you evolve this into her, and it's in rest mode, you're like, oh, it goes back to your hand, and you did that for free if you had Champa and Vados out. Or, at the worst, you paid 1 energy to do that. And on top of that, you have a 20k crit. So then once you have these two out, you have a 20k crit attack, and then you have a 20k double strike attack. So you're just constantly battering your opponent with all these free cards with tons of power. So another card I run 4 of in this deck, which is important, is this Kevlar, the Peak of Perfection. So this has 2 really cool autos. So the first is that when you combo with this card, it's a 1-cost 10k combo, so you do have to pay an energy for it. But if you combo with it, if your leader card is a Universe 6 and it's your opponent's turn, you get to pick one of their energy and switch it to rest mode. And then you can't use another Kevlar, the Peak of Perfection's auto that turn. It won't activate. Which means you couldn't like play all 4 of them in a turn, rest all 4 of their energy. That'd be pretty messed up. Just waste their whole turn. But you usually only need 1. So you just combo with this on your opponent's turn. You switch one of their energy to rest mode. Then that means you have a blue and a yellow card in your combo area. That means you get to arrival blue and yellow. So this is my typical combo I like to do on turn 2, turn 3. Is it's your opponent's turn. You know, they swing at you. You combo with this. You switch one of their energy to rest mode. That disrupts their plays if they hadn't already played a card. Or if not, it just protects your leader from damage. And then you only have to pay 1 more. Boom, you got a free 4-drop 19k. And this card's really cute in the late game when your leader's awakened, because when you switch your opponent's energy to rest mode, you also get to draw a card. So you're doing lots of things. This also has Arrival itself. So if you comboed with this, say, instead, or another Kevlar, you could play this for 1 yellow instead of 4. Now when you do that, the second auto works. When you play this card during your turn, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, you switch it to rest mode, and then you negate that battle card's skills until the end of your opponent's next turn. So it lasts all the way through your opponent's turn. So if they have some really annoying battle card that has really dumb abilities, you can just play her for 1. And then switch to rest mode. As long as it doesn't have barrier, you do have to choose. But you can pick one of their cards, switch to rest, negate all of its skills. It won't even have skills all the way back into your next turn. And then it's a 20k beater. Very powerful card. And actually, there's a couple more cards here. So to top off kind of the curve, if your opponent somehow didn't already die, you have this Kevlar. Often charges this energy on turn 1. Once in a while, your opponent manages to survive and scrape through. That's where this comes in. So you can play this for 1 yellow, and it's Union Potara, but you have to do it on a Kale and a Caulifla with energy cost 4. So you can't do this on the 1-drops or the 2-drops. This has to be the 4 costs, so the Awakened Sisters. So this 7-drop Kevlar evolves from these 2. So you have to have both of these 2 on the board, but you're able to do this because how Union Potara works. You can attack with this Kale Awakened Sister, you can attack with this Caulifla Awakened Sister, and then pay only 1 yellow. Both of these go back to active. This goes on top of them. This card's very powerful if you do manage to pull it off. So it's a 1-cost 30k barrier. So it's really hard to get rid of. It doesn't have Double Strike or anything like that, but it does have Aegis. So that's that mechanic, like I said earlier, where you can discard a blue and a yellow card or a blue-yellow card, and then you get to switch 2 of your energy back to active. which is great. It means you can swing with a big 30k, you can tap out of energy, and on your opponent's turn you get to untap energy to defend yourself. It also has this real neat auto that when you use its Aegis during your opponent's turn, you can choose up to 3 of their energy and switch it to rest mode. So if they like attack with their leader first and they're trying to find a piece, you can just use this, basically tap them out. They basically just wasted their whole turn there. And if your leader's awakened, that also means you're drawing a card. A very powerful finisher, especially if your opponent has trouble getting rid of a barrier card. So the very last card in this deck, this card you can only play 1 of, and that's the secret rare, Parapotara. This card, I've used once in a while. It only really punishes opponents who try to swing game against me, but then I survived, and they're like all tapped out. You know, they have no energy, all their battle cards are tapped. Then this guy, if your opponent has at least 6 energy, or they have 6 or more cards in rest mode, which means they might have just 4 energy tapped, turn 4, you know, and then their leader and like a battle card. This guy gets reduced by 3, so he goes from an 8-drop to a 5-drop only, which makes him way more playable. When you play this guy, he has an auto that you get to choose up to 4 of your opponent's cards, which are in rest mode. So even if they did somehow have stuff left over after an all-out swing, you can just, they're all in rest mode out. And then you draw 4 cards. So you just get insane card advantage. And then it's a 40k triple strike. So then you just drew 4 cards, switched all their energy to rest if they had any left. And this usually will kill them unless they have one of the free negates, one of the sparking negates. But by the time you're probably playing this, they probably went through a few of those. And that's the whole deck.